Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. Returning back to the show, my co-host, official credentialed Tampa Bay media member,
That's
Garrett
right.
Ballard. How are you?
I am good. Finally, it's been a hectic 2 weeks for me, but I'm happy to be here. Happy to be back. Happy to announce that, like JT said, I'm officially credentialed to cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a media capacity. I'll be there on Sunday in the press box, bringing you all live updates, a game story afterwards, more stuff after. Also, should be a great time. Very very stoked.
So if you thought Garrett's coverage of the team was great before this, just wait till he gets in there in the locker room, gets that kind of access. It's going to be that much better.
That's right. That's right. Only up from here.
Which, we need right now because it's been a down 2 weeks, and I don't want to say it's all your fault, but the 2 weeks we didn't record the show, we
You're
didn't
right.
win. So, this
You're right.
is us putting in our time, doing our part to help the team, and right now they desperately need it.
Yeah, the Falcons are looking ahead to it already. The Chiefs game was an ugly one. Uh, Packers game, not as ugly, but still not good. But focusing mainly on that Chiefs one, it was just nothing went right. Really, it was just a bad all around game.
Yeah, I was not expecting the defense to get torched like it was because going into that, the Bucks were allowing 9 points per game, I think, and 2,000 Baltimore Ravens allowed 10 points per game for the season, and it's a small sample size, 3 games, but obviously the Bucks have been off to a dominant start defensively, and we're the best defense in the NFL by really every standard you could look at.
Yeah, I still think they're good defense, but I don't know what it was. I don't know what went wrong, but just nothing clicked, nothing went right, and the Chiefs were able to do typical Chiefs things and just put up a bajillion points and score at will. Really, I think the Bucks were way too passive, both offensive and defensively, um, and they just kind of let the Chiefs just like one thing I want to highlight. Just the Chiefs got endless underneath intermediate slants, kind of stuff like that. Um, and I think it's because Todd Bowles was playing corners about 10 yards off the line of scrimmage and just was not really engaging them like they have been successful in. And uh, I, I mean, we know that the Bucks ran quarters and cover two a ton in the Super Bowl and were able to just dominate Patrick Mahomes. But um, Andy Reid's not going to let that happen twice. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to overcome what they're doing, and that was just not the case on Sunday.
Yeah, and this is a different Chiefs offense than what the Bucks saw in the Super Bowl. We've seen what Tyreek Hill can do to these Bucks corners matched man to man, and he just gashed them that regular season game. I think he had over 200 yards.
Yep.
But this current group of Chiefs receivers, they're not really imposing. You look at it as guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, who is kind of a middle of the road guy. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who was kind of an offcast in Green Bay, an afterthought. I mean, this is not a great group. Sky Moore I really like as a rookie, but he hasn't really established himself yet in the league. So I thought this was a game the Bucks could have gone man-to-man and really kind of keyed in on Travis Kelce and done everything in their power to take him away, and they just couldn't. And I believe Garrett has froze. Garrett, are you back with us? Yep, you're back. Oh, he's gone. Garrett, can you hear us? Are you out there?
Hello, hello.
We got you. Do you hear us?
Oh my goodness, man! I don't know what just happened.
I don't know.
Oh,
we good?
I think.
Okay.
Go while you can.
So yeah, I really thought the Bucks had all the tools in the toolbox to take Kelce away and match up with these receivers, and it didn't happen. And I was really confused on a lot of things, but One point I heard brought up, which I thought was really interesting and I hadn't thought about, and it's something so obvious. I don't know how I could not think about it. The way the team might have been affected by the travel and by the hurricane. And, we always think, these guys are professionals, they have to focus, get the job done, no excuses. But moving your family around and, so many of those big real life issues that probably a lot of our listeners have dealt with firsthand after last week, really, if not physically, but mentally, I mean, how focused can you be on game planning for this? And if there's one coach in the NFL you really don't want to slack mentally against, it's Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, from personal experience, literally last week, having family, having a home in Tampa. Obviously, the hurricane didn't end up hitting in Tampa directly, but up until really the day before, it was looking like it was going to. Having to practice with that thought that you might come back and your home is gone or underwater, and it's frightening. It's a lot to deal with. It's not fun to think about. And I mean, they are professionals. They're all good at their job, but they're human too, and that's just what happens.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, I just think it was poor execution mainly, but that definitely could have played a factor.
Yeah, and we'll do a little bit more deep dive into some of the execution because we are starting to notice trends 4 games into the year now. Yeah. But one trend I was really happy to see broken was the Bucs scoring, where they basically doubled their season output for points. They'd scored 32 points on the year going into that game, and they scored 31 in the game. So that was positive, although I wasn't particularly excited about the game. I mean, it was just never really in reach. It felt like it was a lot of soft kind of stuff. And I don't know if that's something we're going to see consistently. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I really hope that game was kind of a wake-up call for the offense, like Byron Leftwich in particular, because the way he had been calling plays up until the second quarter of that game was just terrible. I mean, first down runs, very predictable play calling. I mean, first down run after first down run after first down run, and then you pass. It goes run, pass, and then you're forcing yourself into a third and long pass situation. Defense can predict that, cover really well. And then finally, they're like, yeah, we'll throw the ball to Mike Evans and to Chris Godwin. I know they didn't have him, but you got Tom Brady at quarterback. You should be able to throw whoever your receivers are. And he's proven that he can. I mean, Rashad Perriman had a touchdown in the Saints game. Last year, Cyril Grayson was a key player in many games. I mean, it's pretty frustrating to see what this offense can do and realize that all it took was for them to be down 21-3 for Byron Leftwich to be like, oh, shoot, I can pass the ball a lot and win. I know that people are like, well, Leonard Fournette has not looked good this season. I mean, the Cowboys game was his best game, and I still think he looked pretty slow. I think he's lost a step. And if you're not entirely comfortable with Rachaad White in a full-time running back role or even like a part-time running back role, you throw Rachaad White in there and you supplement the run with screens and flat routes and short running back routes like angle routes. It's just you have to be creative, and you can't just smash your head against a banged-up O-line with limited experience.
Yeah, and I think you used a word that really hit the nail on the head for me, and that's predictable. The Bucs can throw the ball, and they can throw it really well. And they can run the ball. At times they've run it really well. But you're not going to run it well when they know you're going to run it. When tendency shows you're going to run it 70% of the time in this situation, guess what? That's not going to be an effective situation for you anymore.
Load the box. They see the loaded box, and they don't change out of it. They're like, yeah, just go for it.
Yep. And how do you supplement that? How do you kind of change things up? It can be little things. You can still be, a running team that's trying to protect Tom Brady a little bit with things like screens and, those quick hitters to the running backs. And how many times have we seen just a quick wide receiver screen to Chris Godwin where he picks up 9 yards? I mean, those are extensions of the running game. So this can still be a run-heavy kind of team until this offensive line, gets experience, gets their feet wet if you want to go that route. But handing it off to Leonard Fournette 20, 25 times a game, it's every time you do it, it becomes less effective. And
yeah, exactly.
We saw that this past week. He got 3 carries for negative yards. And that's not going to do anything.
No, I mean, you need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to adjust to what the defense is giving you and see things and understand tendencies. And the Bucs have really shown that they can't right now. And like I said, I hope this Chiefs game was a bit of a wake-up call because it needs to be. If they keep continuing to try and just go back to what they were doing before and scoring 1 touchdown a game, they're going to fail. I mean, this is not going to be a good season if that happens. So I think this next week is going to be really telling about what they took out from that Chiefs game and what they're willing to do.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Tom Brady did get a little bit banged up in that game. He did suffer a shoulder injury. I think he missed practice today.
Yeah.
But it's not a serious injury. You can keep throwing the ball. This can be a pass-first offense that runs the ball effectively. I mean, the more you pass it, the more effective you can be with your run.
I do want to say this is his weekly scheduled day off. So
might be some intentional, might be some injury.
Yeah, he has yet to take off the day that he has scheduled to take off until today, of course. So it might be just like he's like, yeah, I'm hurting a bit. I'll take the day off.
Yep, and that's to be expected with him throwing the ball as much as he did, because we talk about running it less, but running it 6 times is a recipe for disaster with a young, inexperienced offensive line, especially one going against Chris Jones.
Yeah, you can't. Who, by the way, is now above Aaron Donald in pass rush win rate on the season. But we've been slamming the running game. You can't just abandon it. I mean, I understand you have to in that situation just because you're down so much. But in typical all I'm saying is instead of just running it every first down, throwing some play action, throw it a bit more. Just don't continuously do the same thing because it's going to, like we said, it's going to get predictable. It has been.
Yeah, those short passes to Rachaad White in that game were a breath of fresh air.
They were money.
Yeah, and that's always going to be there because he's great at that skill set. That's what he does. He catches the ball. He can block. And if you want to run with him now and again out of the shotgun, kind of keep the defense on their heels, keep them guessing, not be predictable, that's the sweet spot.
Yep. The kickoff, the opening kickoff, that was a mistake, I will say, by Rachaad White. He should have just knelt it in the end zone. He'll learn. I mean, we knew the game wasn't going to go well from that immediate, just to start. But, hey, he's a rookie. Things happen. He played a hell of a game afterwards. Thought he did a really good job.
And I want to say this kind of on that note. I saw a lot of people say, we had 2 fumbles that cost us 14 points. We lost by 10. Those 2 fumbles were the difference. They weren't. The Chiefs cut through this defense like a hot knife through butter. There was nothing the Bucs did that worked. So if they didn't score 2 quick touchdowns, they would score 2 long touchdowns because the Bucs had 0 answers. This was a complete domination.
I mean, even the defensive line, which is usually the most consistent part of this team, was just getting – I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco were just tearing us up. I think Devin White had a horrible game. I don't think Levante David had a very good game. Just everyone was bad.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because that feels like a natural transition to kind of a quarter review. And the first thing I really wanted to talk about in this quarter review was the defensive line, specifically Vita Vea. He has really underwhelmed this year for a guy who's the foundation of everything the Bucs do and is the heart of that dominant run defense they've had the last couple of years. He's been getting moved at the point of attack, and that is not what is supposed to be happening.
Yeah, he needs to buckle down. I don't really know what's going on, but that's definitely not something you'd like to see.
Did you see that that touchdown run where it was Creed Humphrey and was it Joe Thuney or was it?
Yeah, Thuney. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
moved him.
I will say that's not. I don't get too upset about that because Creed Humphrey, maybe the best center in football last year. He was up there with Ryan Jensen. Joe Thuney is as good of a guard as you can get in the NFL right now. Those are two all-pro level interior offensive linemen. Vita Vea probably the best nose tackle in the NFL. I'm not super bummed to see him get beat by those guys, but I would like to see him dominate against the lower competition more. If you like, ideally he doesn't get pushed around by Cesar Ruiz as much as he did. So
Right, totally agree. This Chiefs offensive line is one of the best in the league. Side note, Shaq Barrett, what are you doing, dude? This
just
gonna
adding
call out
fuel
this
to the
line?
fire. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, if you can't see that this line is better than the line they had in the Super Bowl, I don't know what you're looking at, man.
Yep.
But again, you're right. There's no shame in losing to this pairing in the middle against the Cowboys and the Saints and the Packers, who is it's kind of a hodgepodge of offensive line on that team.
Is Elton Jenkins still hurt? I don't even know. Was he hurt?
No, he was playing right tackle, I think, in that game.
Oh, then it didn't even matter. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think it was like John Runyon, who's like a second-year, 6th-round pick out of Michigan, as their starting guard. And, these are guys Vita Vea should be beating. And the Bucs have been run on in every single game.
I think he's got a pretty decent test coming up. I think the Falcons center, it's Drew Dahlman, has been solid this year. He's been a pretty good piece for them, and he definitely has a good competition coming up on Sunday. So that'll be something I watch very closely.
Yeah, and then next to him is Chris Lidstrom, who was PFF's top-rated, I think, guard this week, or interior offensive lineman, or maybe lineman overall. He's looking really good this year after being a first-round pick in 2019. Yeah. So this isn't a great Falcons offensive line, but this will be a game that isn't a pushover, but one Vita Vea should win.
Yeah, the Falcons' tackles are their weak points on their offensive line. Their interior is solid. So,
Caleb McGarry, first-round pick. What are we doing?
Woof, yeah, he's bad. But quarterly review, I want to take a little bit of a focus on Devin White. I think a lot of people see him sprint across the field, make flashy tackles, and are like, man, that's a crazy good linebacker. But I think there's a point in time that we need to say Devin White is who he is, and I think that point in time is now. Coming out of college, the big thing with Devin White is that he plays too fast. He runs at everything. He cannot break down, and he can't really cover. He can make the splashy tackle and get in the backfield, which is valuable. But the value in a linebacker, the most value in a linebacker in the current NFL is pass coverage. That is undeniable. If you think I'm wrong, I'm not. Sorry. But Devin White still has not improved in coverage. He still plays too fast, and he still misses tackles because he cannot break down and overshoots them. Devin White is good for what he does, and we need to stop pretending like he can do it all because he can't. And I think that's just that. I know he won NFC Defensive Player of the Month, but again, that doesn't really mean a ton when all he's doing is getting the flashy tackles and making the highlight plays. Like, not even the highlight plays, the highlight run stops. Because if it was really making the highlight plays, it's on the back end, like Levante David's doing, getting pass breakups and covering tight ends. And he can't. I will say, actually, he had a great coverage play against Travis Kelce, but the throw by Patrick Mahomes was insane, and the adjustment by Kelce was nuts. I think if we were playing Tampa 2, I would assume, because he's just carrying him up the middle, running deep. He was in great positioning, but Kelce just made a great catch on an impossible throw by Mahomes. So that's a good coverage play, far and few between.
And again, one of those duos where there's no shame there.
Oh,
Kelsey
yeah.
and
No,
Mahomes,
not at all.
everyone's getting beat.
Yeah.
I will disagree just a little bit with you on that.
Okay.
And overall, I agree. Devin White, I was very critical of coming out of the draft. I didn't even have a first-round grade on him, and the Bucs took him at 5. So, and he's got all the physical tools. I like his attitude on the field. There's a lot of things to like about Devin White.
Great leader.
Yeah. And I'm really happy he's on this team. I think his coverage has gotten better. And I want to separate getting better from getting good.
Yeah.
He's had good moments, which has been an upgrade from the past. There have been plays this year where I thought, whoa, that's a really good rep and coverage from Devin White. And even that one you mentioned, I think there was a couple in the Cowboys game where he was all over the field. I think he had a near pick 6 on a 4th down play in that game.
True.
That's growth, which, if you're going to be a superstar linebacker in the league, you have to be consistent and you have to be great across the board. Coverage, run stuffing, forcing turnovers. That's what the great linebackers do. I'll take a step forward in the right direction with a new coach kind of overseeing his development in Larry Foote.
Yeah.
He's co-defensive coordinator and he's moved to the inside linebackers. I'll take step in the right direction. I'll take positive gains. That said, he's not where he needs to be in terms of consistency. There's still plenty of room to continue to grow. And if the Bucs are going to pay him that massive contract that he's going to be looking for, he's got to continue to improve.
I think saying there has been improvement. I think I was probably a bit too hyperbolic with the statement I made, but he has improved. I don't think he's good still. And I think that we are nearing the point. I think we're at the point this season of saying, how much more can he grow, really? Like, I think we all say, oh, he can, but like we're nearing the point where he's done with his rookie contract. He's really nearing the peak of his play.
Sure. Year 4, you kind of are what you are.
Like, maybe he's an anomaly and he just continues to get better as he gets older. Like, he's in the prime of his career right now. We know that. And maybe he just continues to just grow and grow. But normally, you would imagine your 5th overall pick is at his best in his 5th year.
Is this year 4 or 5?
This is 4. Sorry, this is 4. This is 4.
But still, 4 years in, I mean,
yeah,
you've adjusted to the league. You've gotten the NFL coaching. You've gotten the NFL strength and conditioning. You've been there, done that. You've won a Super Bowl.
Yep.
You expect him to kind of hit his peak, and he's just going to continue
that playoff run, the Super Bowl win, gave me so much hope. He was lights out that playoff run. He was so good, and I was like, man, this is a turning point for Devin White. He's going to flip a switch and just be elite next year. And he really, he's good, but he did not take the step I was imagining. It was disappointing.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing. What's in there.
Yeah.
You've seen the flashes.
It's that, it was there for a 4-game span. I was like, oh, but.
That's how I felt about Sean Murphy bunting. What's there. Just, you got to do it.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on? A quarterly review, a little bit of offense, maybe.
Yeah. Let me ask you, kind of tie some, news with the Bucs in. Cole Beasley retired today or yesterday?
Today.
Okay, it's been a long day for me. It's all one kind of blur. But what were your thoughts on that?
It's whatever. I don't think he clearly didn't make that big of an impact when people were hurt. I know he just joined the team, but there were no rave reviews about him from practice or anything like that. And then we got healthy. There's really just no use for him. I think it's fine. I'm not really moved by it.
Yeah, it's not something I expected, but then I saw it and I wasn't necessarily surprised by it. I'm like, oh yeah.
I saw it. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Have a nice day.
Yeah, literally.
Since then, I have seen all over my Twitter feed calling for Odell Beckham Jr. And yeah, sure, you want Odell Beckham Jr. because you want great players across the entire roster.
Right.
But overall, I'm feeling fairly comfortable with the depth on this team. Julio Jones, I think, has looked better than I anticipated when he was healthy. And
Needs to just stay on the field, though. That's
yeah. And, he's an older guy. Limit his reps and make them the best reps. And I think that kind of opened the door for Russell Gage to get some forced action his way because he came out of the gates really slow, which was a huge letdown those first couple of weeks. But the last 2 weeks...
He has been banged up.
Yeah, he's been working with the hamstring. Yeah. But he's got that chemistry going a little bit now with Tom Brady. So between Gage starting to emerge and Julio showing flashes, and then, obviously Mike Evans is incredible. Shout out Mike Evans, moving to 33rd all-time in the career touchdown receiving list.
Yep.
And then Chris Godwin, who, let's just keep hoping for good health for him because, coming off the knee, then the hamstring. And
as reliable as ever when he's healthy.
Exactly. When he's there, you know what you're getting. So yeah, I'm happy there. And I was wondering, because you're, big on the wide receiver. I know you focus a lot on that. Where are you at with wide receiver depth overall?
I mean, I understand why people would be calling for Odell Beckham Jr. to be signed. I mean, who wouldn't want him on your team, right? But, I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of acting like one of our starters got hurt for this, like is done for the year. Odell Beckham Jr. is not. I mean, he visited the Bucs. I know that Tom Brady's probably like, yeah, bring him in because he's a great receiver. But our wide receiver room has a great dynamic. They work really well off each other. They all have really, really talented skill sets. Obviously, we've seen it, and we know they can play well. They have developed chemistry with Tom Brady over the course of years, in some cases, months. But while I think Odell would be a flashy signing, I don't think it's necessary.
The only reason I feel like it's necessary is just to stick it to the Rams.
That'd be
the Rams are dangerous with him.
That'd be fine. I mean, sure. But I'd rather save that money in case an offensive lineman gets hurt.
Yes. In fact, I'd rather invest it in an offensive lineman right now.
I would
bring in a guy like Eric Flowers, who is still a free agent. And, the offensive line, these young guys, particularly Luke Gadecki, has performed admirably. And I think he's ahead of schedule in terms of his development.
I would agree.
But he realistically kind of needed a full redshirt year to adjust, to learn how to play guard, to learn what it's like at this level of competition. So for the position he's been put in, I think he's done fairly well. But for a team that's Super Bowl or bust, he is not where he needs to be quite yet.
And hopefully that just continues to get better as the season goes on. And I think the team's hoping that as well, or else we probably would have seen someone get brought in. That probably means the team expects it to continue to develop also. But, real quick, before I forget about it, Keith's reception.
Yes.
Let's go.
Team Keith.
Yes. But, okay, just wanted to touch on that because it just popped in my head. But, I agree with you. The offensive line is the dire need for attention right now with the injuries. I'd rather just save the money in case something happens there.
Yeah. Like if, we've seen what it looks like when we lose Donovan Smith.
And Tristan Wirfs.
Oh, heaven forbid. It'd be nice to have that money in the back pocket to go sign a guy like Eric Fisher. Bring another CMU Chippewa in on the team, win a Super Bowl.
Just every CMU player ever.
Literally. They're, one with Antonio Brown, one with John Murphy Bunting, Super Bowl champions. Next up, it's Gadecki and Fisher. Solidify that line.
I want to just say this. I'm not going to speak too much on it, but I have a CMU related thing to tell you off pod afterwards.
This is the highlight of my day.
I think you'll like. But yeah. I'm trying to think. Any other? We talked about the offense. My quarterly review would have been just saying how trash it's been and how they need to implement more passing earlier in drives. And we saw that. I can't think of anything right now. Can you?
Well, let me ask you this, because I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit on Todd Bowles. Most of me really likes him, and I think he's really candid, and I see some transparency in his answers, although not always.
Yeah.
I think obviously we can be critical of what's going on with the offensive side of the ball and
Right.
his role there.
Right.
But after the Packers game, he said we're going to try and utilize guys like Devin White a little bit more, or Rashad White a little bit more. And then the next game they did. So he's been true to his word. I think the defense has played mostly great this year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Todd Bowles and this new regime so far?
I mean, I think it's been fine. I think, a lot of the time you get coaches who are neither defense or offense, and you can, if something goes bad, you blame them. But I think Todd Bowles is one of those guys who's really respected in the locker room, does his job well, and is like, you'd worry about your stuff. I got mine. We all work together to lead the locker room. I don't think there's like a huge power struggle. I think it's very similar to what probably was going on under Arians. I do think he looked a bit bewildered in that Chiefs game at times. Like when they zoom in on his face, he was like, what the heck's going on? But that happens when you get 41 points scored on your defense that you take a lot of pride in. I think we have seen this happen before to Todd. They have bad games, and then they buckle down and work and fix it. I think it'll all be fine. I think it's been fine. I'm not going to say good. I'm not going to say bad because we're 2-2. That's fine. I think it's been fine up until this point, but there definitely needs to be improvement just overall.
How this team grows and how it responds, I think, is going to define Todd Bowles' tenure for this year.
I agree.
One thing I do want to say, and this should come to no surprise for anyone who follows football closely, I love Todd Bowles and how he uses his safeties.
Oh, my gosh.
He is the best.
Just his entire defense. Watching Vita Vea drop, oh, my gosh. It brings so much joy to my heart.
He is just a wizard. And, yes, it did not work for last week. And there are times when we play the Rams or, we have those games that are a stinker. But schematically, I love what Todd Bowles does. Yeah. I love the way he utilizes his defensive backs. He's a defensive backs guy. Logan Ryan has been a gem that they've brought in.
Yep.
I think I really appreciate what a smart coach he is. He's truly that chess master who's just, he's hustling you in the park.
And, sometimes, they get plays run on and they get completions, obviously, because that's just what's going to happen. I remember seeing someone post a clip of Todd Bowles just doing something absurd with his defense. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was just crazy. And someone was like, they completed the play, completed the pass. And I'm like, shut up. Let us have fun. It's cool. Innovation is really, really sick. You don't see a lot of it in defense or in football, especially on defense. It's a unique thing, and Todd Bowles is at the top of the list in terms of utilizing his defenses in creative ways and just getting his best players in favorable situations.
Yeah, we talked about it with the offense being predictable. Todd Bowles is not predictable. When you're dropping nose tackles into coverage and your best pass rusher into coverage and you're blitzing like 2 outside corners, I love it. It's just fun.
He needs to take some of his brain power in terms of or innovation. That's the word I should use, and give it to Byron Leftwich. That would make me just an ounce. It would be great, but just Byron Leftwich honestly needs to go to him and be like, "Hey, how did you become so innovative?" I would love for that to happen because as Harold is, as Leftwich is, he runs a pretty archaic offense that, it's runs on first down and then dagger concepts until your eyes bleed, which is fine with our receivers, but it's predictable. So,
yeah. So the adjustments need to be made there, but I think, and maybe this is just hope speaking, I think they are going to make those adjustments this week.
I do too. I have faith. We've seen, like I said, we've seen the team get killed and then make adjustments, or lose in pretty embarrassing fashion and then make the adjustments. So I have faith.
So let's turn the page and look at this week, because last week is nothing worth dwelling on.
Yeah.
Who would have thought a month into the season, Bucks versus Falcons would be for the division lead.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, this Falcons team was supposed to be really bad.
And the
first
Falcons,
overall pick.
They were like half a quarter away from being 3-1 from that Saints game in week 1. Like they were so close to winning. But yeah, I mean, the team is better than we thought. I still think the Bucks have the edge. But yeah, they've been impressive. I think Arthur Smith has done a tremendous job with Marcus Mariota, like as good as he can do.
I felt the same way last year about Arthur Smith. The Falcons should have been a lot worse than their record was last year, and he just they overachieved, and right now they're overachieving so far this year. So shout out to Arthur Smith and this coaching staff. This is going to be a closer game than we would have thought.
I agree.
So let's talk about why it's going to be a closer game. Drake London, rookie wide receiver, is off to a really good start. Looking back at your draft rankings, I know we're deep in draft. Where was Drake London for you?
Oh, gosh. I had Wilson. Wait. Was it Wilson? Oh, my gosh. Williams? Ohio State wide receiver?
Yeah.
Wilson. Oh, my gosh, dude. This was how did I forget? I'm washed. Wow. Yeah. Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks. Who else? I am washed.
We're already on to the next class. The last class is dead forever.
Yeah, honestly. Receivers.
Chris Olave, Drake London.
Okay, so I had Wilson, Burks, Olave, London, Jamison Williams. So I had him wide receiver 4.
Okay. I had London as wide receiver 2.
Okay.
So
they're all I think they were all first round grades for me, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this was another good receiving class.
Hello?
Hello.
My mic unplugged. Sorry. Those 4 had first round grades for me. Those 5 did.
So yeah, Drake London off to a really good start. He's had 3 really good games, and last week he kind of got his first dose of being shut down. Mm-hmm. But Drake London is a little bit of a Mike Evans light. He's big, physical, fluid in his body motions, great adjustments to the ball, and faster than you would expect from a guy who's 6'5".
Yeah, I think this is obviously you think, okay, this is the Saints' best receiver. I think that your team's best corner should go up against him. I think this is a matchup for Jamel Dean. I think Jamel Dean has been our best corner this year. I think we were talking about it, how he gets beat on double moves, he can't catch a ball, and he's just shut me up this year. I think he's been phenomenal. He's got the speed to carry him. He's got the physicality. He's got the size. And we know he now has the ball skills to make plays on the ball if he can. Carlton Davis, great player. I still think he's a very good cornerback, but Jamel Dean has wowed me this year. And I think that we shadow Drake London with we should shadow Drake London with Jamel Dean on Sunday.
Can I say something that's borderline arrogant?
Sure.
I don't think it matters which of our corners is covering Drake London. I think Dean and Davis are both going to shut him down.
I would think so too, but that was more so me just saying I want the guy who can catch the ball on him.
Yeah.
Because Marcus Mariota will probably throw us a couple meatballs.
What I'll say about Carlton Davis is he excels at going against these big body receivers. Guys like
where he thrives.
DeAndre Hopkins. Davis has handled him really well in the past. Kenny Galladay, back when he was with Detroit, before he was terrible with the Giants. Davis shut him down with Matthew Stafford. So a guy like Drake London, who isn't a burner and he's not super twitchy, which is what Carlton Davis struggles with, this feels like that side of whichever corner is going against him, it favors the Bucks, even though I like Drake London a lot.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I was saying shadow because I was being a bit let's see Jamel Dean work, but they won't shadow. I think they'll just leave him on their respective side of the field, and whoever guards him guards him. Like I even feel comfortable with Antoine Winfield covering him in the slot if they decide to put him there. I like our DBs a lot. I think we have probably the best secondary in the NFL, despite the Chiefs game. And I'm excited to see what they can do. I do think Arthur Smith has done a tremendous job masking Mariota's deficiencies, kind of using Kyle Pitts as bait. I'm not going to lie. I watched a wonderful video. I've caught it myself also, but I watched a wonderful video that put it into terms that I really couldn't think of by Theo Ash. He posted it on his YouTube channel about why Kyle Pitts is not catching the ball. They're using him as an extra blocker and as a decoy. They're sending him on deep go routes to make the heads of the defense turn, and then they open up space underneath and chuck it to Drake London or their other tight ends or their running back. And people might be saying, oh, Kyle Pitts isn't good this year, like he's not doing anything. That man is a threat, and they are utilizing that because teams know he's a threat. I mean, we've seen that guy, how fast he can run and how well he can catch. So you need to account for him, or else he will tear you up.
Yeah, let's not forget, Kyle Pitts is a freak.
He's a freak.
How many yards did he have last year? Over 1,000?
He had over 1,000.
That's ridiculous for any tight end. That's Rob Gronkowski. That's Travis Kelce.
Let alone a rookie.
Exactly. The dude, he's basically Drake London, except 40 pounds heavier. And he does all the same. Big, fast. He's just...
Yep. I mean, obviously his production's going to be down because Marcus Mariota is his quarterback. But like I said, Arthur Smith is doing a great job using him as a decoy.
Sure, and that's the guy you want to take away. I mean, if a rookie's going to beat you, fine. A rookie wide receiver isn't going to kill most teams, especially one who's not a burner, like a Tyreek Hill who's going to put up 200. So you want to take away the guy, and that's Kyle Pitts on this team. You know, I don't care what his stats are this year. I haven't looked at him because I know what Kyle Pitts is. He is the guy.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind that, like, if he's given the opportunity, he'll make you pay. Obviously, he hasn't been given the greatest opportunities this year, but, like, that doesn't mean he can't play. We know he can play. We know the Falcons have done a good job getting their entire offense involved. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is a really shifty, twitchy wide receiver who's pretty good. Like we said, Drake London is obviously good. Unfortunately, I was going to say Cordero Patterson is a very unique running back, but he's hurt. But Tyler Algier has stepped up and has done well in his place. The offensive line's better than we imagined. I mean, the offense is good despite having Mariota at quarterback. I mean, this is a good unit. I think the Bucs defense should still be favored to shut them down a bit, but they'll get theirs in. They'll get their chances and they'll make some plays. But it's a unique team that I definitely was not expecting to be this good.
Yeah, you mentioned Cordell Patterson. This Falcons team has run the ball very, very well.
Very well.
And you wouldn't expect that from a guy like Patterson, who's had such an interesting career arc, coming into the league as a wide receiver, really made his mark as a kick returner, and then he's moved to running back, and now he's thriving as a running back. He's just been such an interesting player to watch.
Very unique.
And as much as I'm happy the Bucs defense doesn't have to deal with him, I'm really bummed I won't get to watch him this week. He's a fun player.
Yeah. I do want to kind of turn heads to the other side of the ball, the Bucs defense or the Bucs offense, and then the Falcons defense. The Bucs theoretically, should have the upper hand here by a pretty good margin.
Yeah, this has to be a get-right game. This Falcons defense, I don't want to sound, cocky again, but this defense stinks on paper.
They got A.J. Terrell, who's a stud. We know that.
Yep.
Other than that, there's not a ton. Richie Grant's getting better, but is still not the best safety.
Grady Jarrett's still kicking around.
Grady Jarrett's still good, but, I mean, he'll line up over Shaq Mason because they run a 4-3, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And I think he's on the right side in perspective of the offensive line. So I think he'll be over Shaq Mason, which is good for us unless they move him over. But other than that, there is not a lot.
No, this is a game where you can't let those two guys, just Terrell and Grady Jarrett, you can't let them beat you. You can't throw it and get picked off by Terrell for a pick six. You can't let Grady Jarrett go nuts for 2 or 3 sacks and tackles for loss.
Correct.
Because you can just out talent this Falcons defense. So yeah, this is where Brian Leftwich can experiment. He can kind of find his groove, because everything he does should be fairly effective. And if it isn't, it's something he has to take a good, hard look in the mirror about.
Truthfully, I'm looking for a big Rachaad White game, bigger than last week. I think we're going to see Rachaad White get more and more touches as the season goes on, specifically in the passing game. And I think we're going to, hopefully, the reason I say this is because I want it to be true. I want them to pass more. I think Leonard Fournette is fine at what he does. I don't think he's as good as he was last year. But I think we need to implement passing and supplement the run game with short passes like we talked about earlier. So I'm expecting Rachaad White to have a bit of a breakout game. I'm not going to lie.
I like it.
Unless they just resort back to running the ball. But only time will tell.
Well, on that note, do you have any final thoughts on this game before we moved into bold predictions?
Final thoughts on the game? No, I don't.
All right, then let's jump into it. I'll go first on bold predictions, since you kind of just gave one there, but I don't know if you had another one up and ready. But one I feel strong about this week is the Cade Otton coming out party.
I love that.
50-plus yards and a touchdown. Cam Brate in the concussion protocol. Otton's probably going to get the start. And side note, thoughts with Cade Otton and his family with the passing of his mother. You hate to see that.
Heartbreaking.
It is. It's heartbreaking. And I respect the time that he took away from the team. Some people have a problem when a player takes time away from the team for a personal matter. This is so much bigger than football, and I applaud him, frankly, for being able to put something that's so important to him. It's his passion, it's his career. Put that to the side for something bigger than that. So I really want to see Cade Otton thrive this week.
Well said. I want this to be not to make it comparisons on tragedy, but I just instantly think back to Quan Alexander against the Falcons, the day or a couple of days after his brother passed away. Seems like you're predicting a similar situation here, just on the other side of the ball. But thoughts and prayers to Cade Otton and his family. Heartbreaking situation, but I would love to see a Cade Otton breakout game. I've been a big fan of his since the draft. Had a tough injury in college, and then has come on and I think done a really good job with us so far, primarily as a blocker. But I think he's done well, and I think he's earned his chance to shine. So I hope this is that game.
I think it is.
I'll just kind of put a number on what I said about Rachaad White. I want to see 75-plus receiving yards and a touchdown. That's what I think would be a successful Rachaad White breakout game.
That would be a huge breakout game. There's a good chance that leads the team in receiving.
That's true.
I'm here for it. We're to the point where I don't know if I can call this a bold prediction, because the Bucs defense has looked so good this year.
Right.
But I'm going to say Falcons offense does not crack double digits.
Wow. Triple digits?
Double digit? I don't think they get to 10.
Oh, points. I thought you meant yards. I was like, what?
Oh, no.
Points. Okay. That'd be sick. That'd be awesome. I definitely would like to see that. My next bold prediction is that do I think this is going to happen? No. Yeah, I do. I think Jamel Dean's going to get another interception, and I think he's going to allow less than 30 yards on whoever he's covering.
Ooh, that's nothing. And I like it because we talked about, I think this is a matchup that favors the Bucs, and you talked on how good Jamel Dean's been this year. He has been very good. So I like that one.
My hang up was a 30 yards. I was like, that's like so low. But
Yeah, that's
and
a
I'm not
tall
talking
order.
like just a single receiver. I'm talking about whoever he's matched up with collectively, less than 30 yards.
I'm here for it. All right, last
Number
bold
3.
prediction. I'm betting on the young guys this week. I talked about Cade on my first bold prediction. Second one, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Logan Hall
Whoa, yes.
both getting a sack this week.
I love that. Mine was going to be a Joe Tryon-Shoyinka sack because, like, I'm just going to say it until it happens. That's my guy. I think he's going to be good. He's been getting pressure. Like, he just hasn't been able to get home. Does he have one sack?
I think he has a half a sack.
Half a sack. Okay. Yeah, I think he gets at least one solo sack in this game. I would love for that to happen. He has such a unique skill set, his arm length, his get off, just all of the above. I'm a big fan of his. We know this, and I'm just waiting for the day that he can get home.
Yeah, and that on top of Caleb McGarry stinks.
True.
It's time to eat.
You know what? I'll be a bit different. I'll say that encompasses my thoughts as well, but I also want to say Shaq Barrett has 2 sacks.
Yeah,
I think
and there's going to be opportunity.
Yep.
So you think at least 4?
Well,
total.
Combining with yours.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I'm less inclined to agree with the Logan Hall take just because I am very impressed by the Falcons' interior. I feel like there's a better chance that a linebacker gets a sack based on just gaps opening up and how we know Bowles likes to utilize his linebackers as blitzers than Logan Hall, just because they're going to be tangled up with probably Chris Lindstrom. But I love the call. I'm a big fan. Logan Hall, by the way, I wasn't here to comment on it. Great effort sack against the Packers. Got out, like spun back inside. I was like, yeah, I like that. Like what I've seen from him for sure.
Yeah, he's looked good this year, and I think one thing to note: he's not a traditional 3 tech. He's a guy who's going to play almost he's more 5. He's going to play almost a head up with a tackle sometimes.
Yeah.
So I could absolutely see him kind of containing Mariota, who's trying to use his legs to make a play, and beating him to the sideline. Getting that sack as he's trying to escape. He's an athlete. And
he is for sure.
He has that ability to outrun Marcus Mariota.
Not only that, he plays with his head on fire. The guy's effort, like even at Houston, that's like the first thing that stood out. I was like, this guy does not stop. His motor is wild. So, I love the call for sure.
All right, final thoughts on our mini reunion episode here.
Score predictions.
I don't know that it's going to be as wide of a margin because I think this is going to be closer than the numbers indicate because it's a division game. I think Arthur Smith does a really good job putting his team in position. I'm going to say 23-9 Bucks.
Okay, I think I'm going to go a little bit higher on both. I think I'm going to say the Bucks score 27-15.
Okay, 15. Interesting choice. That's one of those, you get that in the Super Bowl square and you're not winning kind of numbers.
It's I don't know why. I think there's going to be a good number of field goals. I think the Falcons are going to so 15 is a weird number. You're right. Wow.
That's a touchdown, 2 field goals, and a safety from Grady Jarrett.
Well, I'm going to say there's a touchdown with a missed extra point. 15. I was just throwing
3 field goals. I
think it's just going to be around 15. 15 was a bad number to say. That just doesn't make a lot of sense. But
that's why I like it.
Hey, yeah.
If that number hits, then you're a genius.
You're right. I'll brag. But
all right.
Is that wrapping us up?
Garrett, remind the people where they can follow Tampa Bay Buccaneer credentialed media member Garrett Ballard.
Officially now at NFL Ballard. The NFL is meaningful. It was like a manifestation kind of thing. I got there. at NFL Ballard on Twitter. I'm not tweeting a ton, but you can find all my work there. I tweet everything out. Follow me. I'll be live tweeting the Bucs game from the press box in Raymond James Stadium, as well as hopefully getting out some interview clips from post game, as well as a story or two after the game. So follow me there. Would love to see y'all interact with my posts. I'd love to have conversations with y'all. So yeah. What about you, JT? Where can they find you?
You can find me with less cool content on my timeline at Icewater Olson. And you can find all of our written work. Well, not all of our written work because Garrett does a lot of written work. But you can find our written work at Bucs Report, covering all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you can find our podcast here on the Around the Block Network, part of Spotify, YouTube, you name it, we got it. So a whole bunch of places you can find all this good content.
Yeah, writing, school's been, so I want to do more writing, but school has been a hassle. But yeah, you can find it, like you said, it's been a lot. But yeah, once again, thank you guys for coming out and listening to another episode of the Creamsicle Chronicles podcast. JT and I love doing this. Don't know how many viewers we have. Don't think we've ever checked, but we don't really care. We love doing it, and we love talking Bucs football to whoever's listening. So as always, thank you guys. Come to the next live show, watch the recordings, listen to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.